Hey, so this is just a little bit of a video to um, explain some more about how these industry trends, stock trends layout, um, how these layouts are working, and I've updated a bit since the first version, so this is a little bit of a different kind of take on it. I'm constantly revising this thing, so this is what I have so far. Um, So the first layout is the industry trends. So we have the chart here, um, and a couple watch lists on the top, and then the industries on the bottom. So the industries here, how this is kind of set up is the white columns here are all gainers. So um, this is just close divided by min low um, for different time periods. So those are the white columns. The green columns here, this is a trend intensity formula um, on again different time frames. So this is green is basically historical trend intensity. So what was the trend 5 days ago, 10 days ago, 1 month ago, all the way up to a year. And then the yellow here, this is historical or not historical. This is time frame intensity. So this is just using higher time frame bars. So this is like the daily bar. Um, this is a weekly bar, all the way up to a 1 month bar. So this is kind of how I see statistically how industries are performing. And so if we look at coal here, coal is, and if you click on these, you can see how it kind of shows you its ranking in real time by highlighting the numbers around these industries. So you could see, for example, oil and gas, equipment and services, pretty good industry. It's ranked one of the top, I would say 5, 10 um, in a lot of these categories here, a lot of these columns. Agricultural inputs also good, and you can see, for example, coal, top of almost every column. So coal is like the best ranked industry based on the gainers trend intensity formulas. So that kind of tells you something about this industry, and you can see how the chart kind of correlates to that because it just keeps going up. Um, so the top here, this is a little bit of a different setup that I have. I like to try to organize as best as possible these things. So I'm constantly kind of switching around these three watch lists, and one is called one street, which is just first industries, second industries, third industries. So just ones that I think that are really good, I think that are pretty good, and I think that are decent. Um, and I can, for example, delete if I wanted to move, aluminum, and then I think, okay, it's good, but it's not great. I'll just move it over to the second one, and then I'll click this X here on this first watch list to kind of remove it from the first. So now aluminum is in second rank. So this is kind of how I organize this stuff. I'm gonna move it back, and I'm gonna delete it from second, so it's still first. And then this blue column here, this is a new thing that I've been doing, and this is an ADR. This is sort of an ADR formula for the previous bar, the current bar, and the average of the last three bars. And this is at industries, which is just taking these three names, these three watch lists, combining it into one, and then I can just kind of scroll and see how all of them stack against each other with this kind of watch list. And so what the ADR formula is, so this is basically percentage of the ADR compared to the ADR of the current bar compared to the ADR of the last 20 days. So what I found is And then this formula is if it's less than 0.9, it gives a check mark for the previous bar, for this bar, and the average of the last 3 bars. So what I found is these check marks, so you can see how, for example, copper has 3 check marks here. So if you look at copper, copper is getting pretty tight. This is how I look at stuff that's getting tight, because the ADR of the candle or previous candles, couple previous candles, are low compared to its usual ADR. So this, combined with the fact that I'm picking a high-ranking industry statistically, is kind of giving me a hint to this is a high-ranking industry, and also it's getting tight ADR-wise. It's getting tight. So how I kind of go about this is I have these flagged, and the flagged go on top. So I'll kind of go through here and say, for example, I don't think oil and so let's for example, gold. I don't think gold is that tight, you know. So I'll just uncheck it and I'll say, okay, it's not that tight. So then gold kind of goes there, and then I can keep a track of this. This is not flagged, so it's not tight. And then, you know, when I'm looking at this, I can then say, oh wait, actually gold does look pretty tight. The ADRs are showing tightness. So then I'll flag it and it'll go on the top. So based on these 3 things. So this is how I kind of, and then, you know, you can play around with that how you want. And you can kind of just see how these things are performing relative to one another, these industries, with this layout. So that's the industries. I have these 3 watch lists. You can do it how, I mean, if you want to use this kind of layout, you could do it however you want. But that's kind of how I do it. And then that, these watch lists then move to my second layout, and that's my stock trends layout. So I'm going to go over to there, and this is stock trends. So then here you can see on the left, these are the same 3 watch lists that I had. And I always like to keep a track of, like, what am I ranking these things? Like, is it good? Is it decent? You know? So I have these 3, and then I just start to kind of go one by one and check these relative stocks for these industries. So you can see how if I click on, for example, coal, which is, as we saw, was one of the strongest statistically. So you can see how if we click on, for example, BTU, you can see how BTU is compared to its compared to the other coal stocks. BTU is doing pretty well, and this is sort of a similar layout. This is the white is the gainers, the green is trend intensity historical. So this is just a standard trend intensity. And then I kind of switched this around, and I'm showing historical trend intensity for 3 days, 5 days, and then 1 month. So 3 days, weekly, 1 month. So this kind of helps to show, for example, we're in coal. If we go to like 1 month trend intensity, what pops up is AMR, and AMR, if we go to the monthly chart, has the, you know, so you could see, you know, it has very, very high trend intensity, this name, on a very high time frame chart. So, you know, that's telling you something. You know, this is a really strong name compared to everything else. So this is the ADR on the end here. This is just the ADR of the name. This has a filter. All of these columns have a filter for ADR and volume. For example, I mean, my ADR filter and my volume filter is 5 and 10,000. You know, you can just click on these and change it however you want to, and then only those names will come up in this list. So you can see, like, the lowest ADR of the list is 5.4. So this is how I kind of look at that. And then this ADR formula is the same as the industries. Um, ADR previous, ADR now, and then the average of the last 3 bars, the ADR. And so you could see how BTU, these with 2 check marks, you can see how, and you can see how tight that last candle is there on BTU. So, and you can also see this is a performance stock name in a performance industry. So, you know, that kind of helps you get an idea of what's on the top here, you know. So this is generally how I look at this stuff. Like, the higher up on this list, the better. That's kind of how I go about it. This is a new one too. This is volume intensity, which I've been playing around with. Not sure if it's gonna work too well, but it's there. And this is the same formula as trend intensity, but with volume. So you can see like the top name. This is kind of crappy name, but you know, it's BTU. So BTU is one of the top in volume intensity, as well as top in a lot of other fields. So that's how that works. And then how I kind of organize this. So I've organized industries. Now I'm looking at stocks, and how I organize stocks is I'll basically go in and start flagging this stuff. If I like it, I'll flag it, and once I flag it, then it'll pop up on my flagged. So I just keep all my flagged symbols here. And then I have a favorites, which is, so if you want like to, so for example, if you want to, let me go back to coal, there's a BTU. So if you want to flag something, you know, you can hold shift and then F, and it'll say it unflagged it because it was flagged. And then like if I wanted to flag this, I'll hit shift F, it'll be flagged, then it'll pop up on top of this list. It'll go into here, and then say I'm like really I'm really into this name. And then I have favorites, which I try to keep as small as possible, just to kind of say, okay, these are in the best industries, like the 1 or 2 of the best names in my opinion in each industry. So I'll hit, you know, so that's shift V for favoriting. So if I hit shift V, that just removed it. But say then, you know, this is already flagged, and then I'm going to say, okay, I want to add it to my favorites now, and I'll hit shift V, so it's my favorite, and now it's on this list. So that's kind of how the stock. So then I'll just go through, I'll kind of like look at the stats of all these things, and then just start favoriting, start flagging, and keeping an eye on what's kind of popping up interestingly. High volume, high stats, you know, to kind of see what kind of ideas I can get from that. You know, this, and then this area has a RVol. All these, a good number of these watch lists have RVol. That's for, you know, on the day type of, this is how I kind of watch for, you know, I use volume buzz and I use RVol to kind of see what's kind of hitting hard in the volume side of things on the day, and then, you know, kind of using this for looking at like where's some of the volume going in these, in what names, in what industries. And on the side here I have an ETFs list. This is not really a scan, it's just like a list of ETFs that I've kind of made into a watch list. Also, RVol has some trend intensity. I'm not really going to get into ETFs. I don't really want to get into ETFs here, but trend intensity, sometimes I'll look at this and kind of see what's, you know, ProShares, crude oil, highest trend intensity. RVOLs. Highest RVOL was Yang. So that's the ETFs list here. So then I have, so that's stock trends, and then so the last thing, this is a lot of screen space for trading. So once I do this, I kind of just grab, trust the list that I've grabbed, and then move over to third layout. And this third layout is same thing. These are the industries that I've gone from the beginning. Always want to keep an eye on this. And then these are my flagged symbols here. These are my favorite symbols here. These are like my positions. Like I would put my positions here, and ETFs again, same list here. So and then I have other normal stuff like EP scan. I like to look at the industries. I like to do the EPs and look at the industry, make sure it's a good one. And then this is like EP watch. If I want to watch something, then I'd watch it here. So, but mainly just the favorites and flag stuff. This is how I keep track of it after. So just kind of the goal is to kind of stay as organized as possible, and kind of track it through industry trends by going for industry scan, looking at the tight ones, flagging those, then going over to stock trends, looking at the good stats, the tight ones, favoriting those, flagging those, getting that all kind of situated, keeping and then on the trading days, keeping an eye on ETFs, what's moving, keeping an eye on the relative volume, the RVOL of these names, of these industries, and kind of going off of that. So that's kind of how I'm going about all that. And so that's it. I'm going to be sharing these 3 industry trends, stock trends, focus layouts to see if anybody wants to play around with that. And yeah, so hope that is of use to some people. Thanks.